Hi, everyone. Gamar Tov.
Gamar Tov.
So good to be with you all. Okay, so this is a true story. It's 1974, Naples, Italy. And the Serbian-born artist Marina Abramovic featured herself in a 6-hour work of performance art. The work involved Marina standing still while the audience was invited to engage with her in any way. There wasn't a stage. She and the visitors stood in the same place, making it clear that the audience was part of the art. And at the beginning, some of the visitors were gentle, offering her a rose or a kiss. But soon the participants in the room began to say, let's say, act rather poorly. A fight eventually broke out, and then 6 hours later, just as planned, she began to move toward the audience. She started walking toward them, and guess what happened? Everyone ran away. So today is Yom Kippur, a day of deep spiritual, personal, communal introspection. When we turn an uncomfortable lens on our behaviors to return to our best and most empowered selves, to live in a clearer relationship with each other, with the earth, with the creative power some of us call God. And the shocking story of Marina and how people abused her when left to do so taught me many lessons about the challenges of being human in an unsafe world. It reminded me that everyone in that room that day, the artist and all the visitors, were all varied aspects of a single person. The kind, loving person, the vulnerable one, the assaulting one, the conflicted one. They're all parts of ourselves. We're complicated. We're layered people. And life is constantly challenging us. At times, it feels dangerous to be human, like we're stumbling around a dark room just looking for a light switch to turn on, or just in need of some relief. Sometimes what comes at us is kind and loving, and sometimes we're kind and loving, and sometimes not. We have complex personalities, and we live in a trying world, surrounded by fast-paced, high-speed everything. High-speed wars, high-speed news, high-speed emails, high-speed COVID variants, climate change, Instagram posts. And when we're agitated and lonely or threatened, or, well, you fill in your own blank, it can be easy to succumb to questionable behavior. Like some of the visitors in that Italian art gallery, it's not always our best selves that show up. On Yom Kippur, instead of watching some performance art piece, we're watching ourselves. And if we're honest, sometimes it's painful. Marina hoped we'd see how sometimes our worst selves, not our best selves, make an appearance. Like the audience members, when we're confronted with our worst impulses, we want to run away. And actually, we have wanted to run away since the beginning of humanity. Do you remember the Garden of Eden? Remember that after the first humans ate what they were told not to eat, they hid from God. And God asked the very first question in the whole Torah, Ayeka, where are you? Not where are you physically, but where are you in your life? What are you trying to get away with? Who are you trying to fool? Don't you ask yourself that question from time to time? Where are you in your life? What are you trying to get away with? What part of yourself are you running from? The 20th century Jewish philosopher Martin Buber says it beautifully. He teaches that each person hides because each of us is Adam. And every person builds a network of hiding places in order to escape taking responsibility for life day to day. We live from one hiding place to another, and then life becomes so untenable that all we're doing is hiding from ourselves. No fun, no fun. And you might think, okay, so stop hiding. Stop, take off the veils. Sounds great. But sometimes our coverings are so heavy and our walls so thick. The poet Mary Oliver captured our hiding so well when she wrote, "Oh, the house of denial has thick walls and very small windows. And whoever lives there, little by little, will turn into stone." We don't want to turn into stone. Yet our walls are so thick. We hide behind walls made of shopping and food and sex and drinks and drugs and screens and exercise and work or losing ourselves in our children. Name your method. And it can be challenging to see out of our windows. And what fuels our hiding even more is our culture of never having enough. When is my house enough? When is my paycheck enough? My marriage enough? When is my body enough? My food intake enough? When do I have enough good friends? When have my kids succeeded enough? And when will I ever slow down to stop asking, when is enough enough? And because we're never satisfied and also perpetually uncomfortable with being in the present, we always think about some other time besides now. Think about how often you snap a picture on your phone, thinking about how you're going to show it to someone else in the future. And ever wonder why the hit song in the show Annie was tomorrow? Like, what about today? This past April, I traveled by myself to Israel, and I tried something new that I had never done before. I didn't take a book. I didn't take my AirPods. I stopped reaching for my phone. I just sat, meal after meal, walk after walk, by myself. I sunk into the discomfort of empty space, of not being productive. Because you see, I've also learned how to hide from myself in my busy productivity. It was totally against my nature, and yet I discovered invaluable things. I began to quiet my flooded mind and reflect on my life. Ayeka, I heard, where are you? Okay, so you get it. You get that we hide from ourselves, that we live in a never enough world. So is there a way out? Rabbi Ber Radoshevsk asked his teacher, the seer of Lublin, show me the way to serve God. And the tzaddik answered, listen, actually, there's not one way. God can be served through study, through prayer, through eating, through not eating. Every person needs to listen to the way their heart is drawn and follow that chosen way. And Buber interprets this to mean that God doesn't say, this is the way toward God and this is not the way toward God. God says, whatever you do can be the way toward me, provided that it leads to me. A little circular. But how do we know if a path does lead to God? And if you bristle at the word God, then just fill in the blank, the path that leads to holiness or to be the best person you can be. That's actually what we're here doing today. What path can lead each of us to be the best person we can be? Where do I start? This is where the hard work comes in. Jewish tradition has some guidance for us. It's called wrestling with our Yetzer HaRa. This is sometimes translated as wrestling with our evil inclination, but it's too simple of a definition. What Jewish tradition calls our Yetzer HaRa is really an awesome quality we each have. Our creativity, our passion, our libido, our animal energy. On the second day of Rosh Hashanah, I taught about the Yetzer HaRa. If you were there, if you weren't, go find it. It's on Zoom or YouTube or wherever we post our sermons. According to rabbinic tradition, the Yetzer HaRa is not something to be ashamed of. In fact, the rabbis go as far as to say that it is the force of life that sustains the world. And I taught on many texts on second day Rosh Hashanah, but I'm just going to review one of them right now. It's a famous Talmudic story, one in which the rabbis were so frustrated with this animalistic part of ourselves, this wild, uncontrollable part, that they bargained with God to capture the Yetzer HaRa. And God let them capture it. And for 3 days, they sealed it in a lead container for 3 days. And then after 3 days, they looked around and they noticed that the world was dying. Not one house was built. Not one person got married. Not one egg was born. So they made peace with the Yetzer HaRa and agreed to let it free, but only after gorging its eyes out, apparently to limit its power. On the one hand, this story is a rabbi's fantasy. Lock up our uncontrollable impulses and move on. And yet we know that that's impossible and actually not sustainable. That's why they tell the story. Rabbi Yosef Soloveitchik, one of the leading modern Orthodox rabbis of the 20th century, makes a psychologically daring assertion about the importance of welcoming our Yetzer HaRa energy into our lives. He teaches actually that when we wrestle with our Yetzer HaRa and channel its energy towards something productive and beneficial and positive, that is the definition of holiness. It's a radical notion. Holiness isn't won easily. It emerges out of sorrow and confusion and inner turmoil. In other words, it's not some highfalutin image of angels in the air with Beethoven's Ode to Joy playing. Holiness is harnessing this animal energy we all have and channeling it towards something constructive. So here's a radical suggestion. Can we invite our Yetzer HaRa to sit on our shoulders and feel that energy? And then ask it without judgment. Why are you here? How are you serving me? I want to use your energy for good and not for harm. And every time you, Yetzer HaRa, every time you take a hold of us, instead of messing up and doing something we regret, we want to feel that energy and we want to redirect it. Perhaps take a moment right now. Hold on to one thing that you're struggling with in your life. Instead of feeling badly about it, instead of shaming yourself, imagine embracing it and asking, what would it take to channel this force and turn it into holy energy? What would it take? Listen, we all have demons. Demons, according to the Greek word daimon, actually just means a life energy that doesn't obey the rules, something that divides us. And our demons do. They divide and they distract us. They separate us from the source of life or from who we want to be. But how we struggle with our demons, that's what we're doing today. Today's liturgy calls us out. Don't run away. Don't try to lock up your Yetzer HaRa in a lead case. Instead, with all humility, hold your Yetzer HaRa and gently just say, Al chet shechatanu lefanecha, and then fill in your blank. I know that balancing our Yetzer HaRa energy on our shoulders is possible. It's possible when we become heretics. Here's what I mean. Heretics is another misunderstood word. Heretic literally means a person who chooses. I can choose to hold this wild energy and direct it for holiness. How? I found 5 Jewish values, 5 midot, very helpful. Patience, truth-telling, commitment, gratitude, and a friendship of accountability. Are you ready, heretics? Are you? Tool number one, patience. The Hebrew word for patience is savlanut. It comes from the Hebrew word sevel, which means to suffer. And when we hold patience, we suffer in the gray area. We discern what is troubling us, and we're able to see other people's sufferings and our own. Patience helps us sit with our Yetzer HaRa. Tool number 2, truth-telling. The Hebrew word for truth is emet. It is supposedly God's seal. Now, how can we pursue truth if that is God's territory? Well, Soloveitchik teaches that every man has an inner man who nobody knows. And the problem is that he doesn't even know himself, which is why in Psalms we read that all men are liars. not because we want to be liars, not because we want to tell an untruth. We're simply unable to tell the truth. And he also admits that every person has a secret which no one will ever betray. I'm not suggesting that we're off the hook for truth-telling, but what I think Soloveitchik is saying is that though our goal is to be more honest, it's also okay to be gentle with ourselves and accept that we have secrets or emotional limitations. And maybe that's okay for now. Truth-telling allows us to look at our Yetzer HaRa in the mirror. Tool number 3, commitment, brit. Once again, Soloveitchik teaches very vulnerably, I think, that eros has no repetition and it excites in the new. Using the example of an alienated marriage, but really you can fill in the blank for anything. He teaches that if we define marriage just based on love, that would be tantamount to building a magnificent edifice on quicksand. So when we commit, he teaches, we give a gift to those we care about deeply. After 25 years of being married to my beloved Bruce, I know how important love is. And I'm not suggesting that anyone settle for a loveless relationship. But what I am saying is that any relationship worth $1 takes work. And sometimes they're in such a bad place that all we can do is lean on our brit, our commitment to one another. Commitment helps us not flee with our Yetzer HaRa. Tool number 4, gratitude, hoda'ah. According to Jewish tradition, when the messianic time comes, we will still be offering prayers of gratitude. Why? You think God needs those prayers? I doubt it. I think it's because when we show our gratitude, we put ourselves in the mode of being in a messianic space. Gratitude helps us see beyond our dissatisfaction, redirecting our Yetzer HaRa. And tool number 5, a friendship of accountability. When the U.S. Surgeon General sounds an alarm on the deadly threat of loneliness, we know that deep connection is a treasure. The Aramaic word for friendship is chavruta, and it means more than just friendship. It's the primary way of Jewish learning. A chavruta in its truest sense is a challenger, a bar plugda, not merely someone who is a yes person who supports us, but someone who challenges us. A friendship of accountability challenges our Yetzer HaRa so we make thoughtful choices. Listen, if we're honest, each of us battles with our Yetzer HaRa, and we have a lot of tools: patience, truth-telling, commitment, gratitude, friendships of accountability. But none of this is easy. And here's the final clincher. Rabbi Nachman of Bratslav teaches that each time we think we've climbed the ladder of holiness, and we think to ourselves, I've got this down. We've harnessed our energies and our Yetzer HaRa toward holiness. Each time we think that, a new rung on the Yetzer HaRa ladder is created just for us. Sounds like an impossible journey. And maybe that's why we're all here, year after year, thank God, revisiting our personal Italian art galleries. But instead of running away, we're choosing to be heretics, choosing to step up that next rung on our ladder, situated at the base of each of our feet, with our Yetzer HaRa balanced on our shoulder, peering out our ever-expanding window. Gamar Chatima Tova. May we all be sealed in the book of life.